So, the Quest 2 has now been out for more than 2 years, which is kind of crazy to think about, but it's still a really good VR headset, and it keeps getting better all the time. In fact, it just got an update that I've been really excited about, V47, which we'll glance over everything else it brings, but this update is special, bringing something really exciting to Quest 2 owners: the ability to pair the significantly improved brand new Quest Pro controllers to a Quest 2, something you can buy all on their own without the $1,500 Quest Pro. And it takes the Quest 2 to a whole new level of usability. And looking around, there really aren't many guides or opinions on it yet, so today I'm going to show you how to pair them up, try them out, and give some opinions on it before you spend double the price on your headset for a controller upgrade. So let's see if it's really worth it. So just real quick, I want to run through V47 because there's kind of a lot of small things here, but pretty exciting stuff. The Quest phone app got a big user interface update, which was much appreciated, along with the new media sync feature, so any video or photo captures you take from the headset will go straight to your app as well. We also get the ability to capture those photos and videos from a controller shortcut, which is nice. You don't have to go through menus anymore. You can also now pin and unpin frequently used apps to the home, and Meta is now getting on the VR chat mirror train and has added mirrors and avatar customization to the home environment. The Quest Pro also got 2 specific new features, bringing background audio playback so you can listen to music while you play games, and a full mixed reality capture setting, which is awesome, but now we're going to talk about the big one. Quest 2 receiving official support for the Quest Pro controllers, which is probably one of the biggest upgrades we've seen for the Quest 2 yet, and maybe the biggest hardware upgrade we'll ever see for it. And this is kind of a big deal because while there are a ton of accessories that you can pimp out your Quest with, this one upgrade totally changes some of the capabilities of the Quest. The Pro controllers ditching the tracking ring that has been on Oculus controllers since the Rift to instead use camera-based slam tracking. It's the same idea as the cameras on the headset itself. Using 3 cameras on each controller and a dedicated processor, they track entirely independently from the headset, meaning that you should be able to put the controllers behind your back, over your head, close to the headset, really anywhere. It's just a significantly better way to track in general. And the Pro controllers also come with a slew of pretty big upgrades from the traditional controllers as well, which we'll get into during my impressions. And I should also state, since I've seen this brought up in videos prior to this, if before V47 you had tried to pair your Pro controllers to a Quest 2, it either wouldn't pair at all or you'd have completely unusable latency. So if people are saying they're having a terrible experience, they're probably just not on the correct software yet. But now we can get into the setup. Pairing the Pro controllers to the Quest 2 is surprisingly easy, like just a few steps and you're in. First, make sure your headset is on the latest update, of course, open up the Meta Quest phone app, connect to your Quest 2, and select the controller pairing options. You'll then have the option to pair the left or right Pro controllers to the Quest 2 individually. So select one of them, and on the Pro controller, enter pairing mode by holding down the menu or Oculus button and the Y button together. The controller status light will flash purple and green, and a few seconds later, you will be paired, and you'll even get the option to unpair your old Quest 2 controller, which you can then use as a cat toy or just keep them as backup. Now, repeat that process for the other controller, and that's it. That's all you gotta do. Throw on your Quest, grab your Pro controllers, and after a few seconds of wake-up time, everything should be working as intended. And I was pretty surprised by this. It seems like I normally have to go through hours of troubleshooting with almost anything new in VR, but not this time. But now onto impressions, and just to put it out there before getting into specifics, just about everything is improved on the Quest Pro controllers compared to the Quest controllers, except for one big thing, and that's battery life. The Quest 2's controllers last for an ungodly amount of time, sometimes weeks or even months, and due to the onboard processor on the Pro and the new features, the battery life on the Pros are cut down to around 8 hours. But this hasn't been a problem for me personally, and that's because the Pro controllers also come bundled with the compact charging dock, something you normally would have to purchase separately. I know I did. So when you're done playing, just throw it back on the dock. And an added bonus is that the USB-C cable off the dock also works to just charge your Quest. So that's pretty nice. And we'll get to the tracking quality and whether or not there's any latency introduced because of these controllers. But first, I want to reiterate my impressions from the Quest Pro review that I did a while ago. The Pro controller has a completely new haptic system called True Touch, and this is probably one of my favorite new features from this thing in general. From Beat Saber to Pavlov to even menu navigation, the haptics feel way tighter and way more precise. It feels less like a generic controller rumble you'd expect from, well, a controller, and much more like, well, if I could put it into words, it feels more like everything you interact with is on a tight string that's getting plucked. If that makes any sense, it's hard to describe haptic feedback. But for larger interactions like slicing blocks in Beat Saber, it feels really nice and sharp. It's a very noticeable difference from Quest 2 to Quest Pro. On top of that, there's also new localized finger and thumb sensors, which is always a nice addition. But now we can finally get into tracking quality, and right away I'll say that the tracking is, in my opinion, improved in every single way. From everyday movements you do playing something like Beat Saber to playing shooters in your hand occluding one of the controllers, something that has been a bane for anybody that plays enough Pavlov or Contractors, the tracking with the pros will almost never fail. And I actually got a high score playing Ghost Voices with these controllers. It could be a coincidence, but they may have actually made me slightly better via better tracking. But the place where the Quest Pro controllers really shine are in the situations where your controllers are outside the view of your headset. The Quest 2 is usually pretty good at estimating where your controllers are when they're out of view, whether that be pulling back a bow or grabbing something with an offhand, or just resting your hands by your side. But if you've used a Quest 2 for long enough, I'm sure that you've also lost tracking many times. And the Pro controllers completely solve that issue. And it's not just tracking performance. One situation I've seen this make a game way more immersive and actually make the game better was Iron Man VR. Being able to put my hands literally behind my back and fly around as Iron Man is something that really only works with either lighthouse tracking or with these. And the use cases just keep piling up. I noticed I was shooting better, and because my tracking ring was gone, I didn't smack my headset or the other controller. I was able to put my arms out, way behind me, out to my sides without any issue. In general, using the Pro controllers is a pretty great experience. And I guess there's really only two big downsides. One is the weight. The Pro controllers are about 8% heavier than the Quest 2's, but I usually have grips on my Quest 2 controllers anyways, so the weight's more or less the same. The other downside, which is the bigger one, is the price. And that will get us into our next section. Would I really recommend this to anyone, considering the Pro controllers cost $300, almost doubling the initial investment of the Quest 2 in general for a slightly better experience? This is totally up to a few factors, and I think the best way to do this is to break this up by proposing prospective Quest users, and you can see which one you closest identify with to make a decision. If you're someone that uses the Quest 2 every single day, like you're a power user either playing Beat Saber or doing art or in VR chat or playing shooters, and you're looking for something that will make your every single day use better, then I would absolutely recommend the Quest Pro controllers. You'll more than get your $300 worth. It'll make every single time you pick up the headset just a little better. If you're someone that uses the Quest 2 occasionally, like maybe every now and then, well, in this case, it all comes down to your budget and whether or not better haptics and slightly better tracking quality is really something that'll make you use the headset more. If you're on a tight budget and don't have $300 to throw around, then do not buy the Pro controllers. The tracking on the Quest 2 is perfectly fine as is, and while these do improve tracking all around, it's mostly noticeable in those 5% of times when tracking does fail, mostly because you're out of line of sight of the headset. What I'm trying to say is that these won't instantly turn you into a Beat Saber or Pavlov god. However, if you do have $300 just sitting around and these sorts of things are important to you, then I'd say go for it. You know what you're getting yourself into after watching this video, and I think you'll absolutely love them. And the same pretty much goes to people that just flat out don't use their headset. If you think you'll use it more with better controllers and you got the dough, then go for it. Otherwise, just pass. I would say another interesting case though is for people that don't even have a Quest 2 yet. If you're looking to get into VR, I think buying a Quest 2 with the Pro controllers for $700 still buys you one of the best headsets in that price range, and it's made even better with these upgrades. And I can say pretty confidently that if you're looking for a standalone headset that can do PC VR well in that range, the Quest 2 Plus Pros will certainly last you another year, maybe even longer, while being relevant and being a good headset. And there's actually two pretty huge things that I really want to talk about before we finish this video, because I think they're two of the most important and interesting things here, especially considering that this is a pretty good chunk of change to be thrown around. I'll start with something entirely prospective. I did find it interesting that you could keep both sets of controllers, the standard Quest 2 and Quest Pro controllers, paired to the Quest at the same time. And this got me thinking of all sorts of possible use cases in the future, that is, if people can figure that out. Like strapping a Quest Pro controller to your body and using it as leg tracking. I mean, why not? It's just slam tracking. It would be super accurate without ever having to use big base stations, which also makes me really want Meta to just make tracker versions of these. It's like my only Christmas wish, Mark. Please do that. But the other thing is that we really don't know what the Quest 3 is going to be yet. I mean, we do through leaks, but those are just leaks. And we don't know if the Quest 3 is going to use controllers like this or like the Quest 2's. So it's something to keep in mind if you're planning on upgrading next year or whenever the Quest 3 is released. If they use tracking ring style controllers, well, you'll already have these awesome Pro controllers as an upgrade if you get these now. But on the other side, if the Quest 3 uses SLAM-based controllers like the Pros, well, you'll have 2 sets of these. So that whole situation is just something to think about. And now that that's all out of the way, the Pro controllers all in all are something I'd highly recommend. It's one of the best features of Meta's $1,500 Quest Pro at a fifth of the price, and it just happens to work flawlessly with the Quest 2, actually making the Quest 2 quite a bit better than it already was. And of course, $300 is still a lot to throw at a peripheral. If this was $100, I'd tell everyone to go out there and buy a set, but it's just not. And the best way I could compare this is it's sort of like an Xbox Elite controller. It's premium, has a few extra features, costs a lot more, but all in all, it is a better controller. But the thing with VR is that it just so happens that controllers matter a whole lot more than a console's controller. And these ones offer a lot more. I mean, they literally track themselves. So hopefully, based on this video, you'll either make the decision that best suits you, or at the very least be way more informed about what these things are all about. Because I love these things and they've probably turned into my favorite controller, even though I'm still using the Knuckles most of the time. And if you plan on picking some up, or you already got some, let me know down below. But I also wanted to mention that I've partnered up with the VR Club Tube yet again, as well as Rise Above the Disorder, a non-profit charity with a mission to bring mental health care to people in need around the world, all to give away a Quest 2 this Christmas to one of you wonderful people. And you can enter either by donating to RAD directly or by doing any of the Gleam giveaway options. The links will be down below in the description, so here's your chance to give a little to charity for a good cause while also having an opportunity to win a Quest 2. And I also wanted to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, especially my Omegas. I recently started adding behind the scenes content and uncut interviews, all from people throughout the entire VR industry, and it's all on the Patreon, and you can join that down below as well. Just thank you to everyone supporting the channel. I couldn't do any of this without you, and I'm trying to bring some really cool stuff to people that do support the channel. And of course, don't forget to like this video if you love this, subscribe if you want more of it, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.